You join Natasha Donn and me, Carl Munson, for the Resident News Review podcast on 27th of February 2026. We're just having a great conversation there, Natasha, about the media. And how long have you been in newspapers and journalism?
Well, I guess I was 17, which is 50 years ago, because I've just got to 67. I was 17 when I went into something called an NCTJ training course, which was a way of becoming a journalist without having to go to university, which I just didn't want to do. Right. And so then I joined the newspaper when I was 18, because you had to do 1 year in college. Yeah. And then you went straight into a newspaper and you did 3 years of what they called indentures, which was 3 years where you were paid really badly. You did all the shit jobs. And at the end of it all, you did an exam. You had to do exams in law and, you had to do all sorts of exams in college anyway, shorthand, which I still do, all of that.
So, yeah. Wow.
You have a total dinosaur.
Well, you've seen the media and journalism change a lot in that time, and that's part of what
we didn't have computers. We did everything on pieces of paper with carbon paper between them. We had to do 3 pieces of paper. So there was one paper went to the subs, one paper went on a spike, and one paper possibly went to the editor, who was always drunk.
Of course,
it was that kind of outfit.
Well, I never. Well, thankfully, at the Portugal Resident, we don't have a drunk editor. We have the lovely
the editor's fantastic.
He's wonderful. And we are looking at 3 news stories from this esteemed publication today. And I hope to get a chance to talk to you about journalism and the media at some point. But that's not for today's discussion. We're starting with this wonderful... And I think you sent me a message during the week about the amazing Ana Abrunhosa, who's not taking any nonsense in Coimbra. She's the mayor over there, isn't she?
She's fantastic. She's a wonderful woman. And I wonder if one day she might be in the running for being the leader of her party.
And then
she's such a great woman.
Yes.
She's so fantastic.
Where's she from? Which party?
She's a PS. She's a socialist, but she's a socialist. She's a very, middle of the road socialist. She was the Minister of Territorial Cohesion for some time. She was really good at what she did, but it wasn't the best of times, perhaps, for her at the time, because the government was going through all sorts of crises. But she's just this fantastic woman. She works so hard. She's well coordinated. She gets, she's really good at delegating. And she gave this guy, and I must say, this man, with his hands, very Jewish.
It's a bluster alert going on here, right?
Yeah, but the thing is this particular minister is all very well. He said, "Oh well, she was late, and I had to say something." The fact is, he is the guy. I gave this to you as a topic once, but we were talking about the weather for so long because the weather was so awful. But he actually was trying to get the agencies that give all the permissions to projects that are essentially, in the case of people would say, are ruining the countryside, and in the case of government people would be, contributing to economic growth. But anyway, he was the guy that actually said to the agencies, stop saying that the law doesn't allow this. Look at the situation from the side of the person putting the project in, the filthy rich company. And he said, and if the law looks like it should be allowing it, we can do something about this. So he's already shown himself to be a bit of a louse. And she got right in there. Oh, but also since this altercation on the banks of the Mondego River, Sabadu's done an expose on various it's the same old thing like in England, housing expenses scandal. Yes. They've all got properties in Lisbon, but they still put in for housing expenses because this man with his hands like this, he's actually got 2 houses that he gets, or 2 properties, 43,000 euros a year in rent for.
So we're seeing quite the vignette or illustration of maybe how people feel about politics. The phrase that came to mind when you were talking about Anna here is that she's a public servant, that she's still in the job to serve people. And she's done an amazing job in, stricken Coimbra. And then we have this chap who perhaps is a caricature and a projectional representation for people of the type of politician who's in it to feather their own nest. Is that the sort of polarity we're looking at in this one picture?
Exactly. And as she said, you're showing a distinct lack of urbanity. I am quite convinced he had no idea what she meant. You know what I mean?
So, do you think she might be the first female president of Portugal? She's creating.
Don't know. I mean, she might end up leading her party. She might decide she just wants to be in Coimbra. She might decide she's had enough. Who knows? But she's just a great woman.
She did distinguish herself, as you say here. And the woman who has become very much a national heroine for her handling of Coimbra's many issues during the bad weather, cut straight into Fernandez's apparent press conference. Yeah, he had an impromptu press conference, didn't he, while he was waiting on the banks of the Mondego. It just sounds like a historic battle, doesn't it? On the banks of the Mondego, as you put it.
Well, I mean, it's funny, though, because when I did my story, Inez, my editor, said, you know what, I think she behaved a little bit like a fishwife. She shouldn't have done all that on air. She was late after all. And I did think about that, obviously. But I still think she was right, because the fact that she was late is probably because she was working very hard.
Yes.
She probably had a very good, excuse for it. And actually the minister was on her territory, he was on the territory of all these municipalities that have suffered massively and have, all their farmers are in absolute, states of despair. And I think he said, oh, well, the press were waiting for me. And that also was a very bad excuse, because on the whole, this government doesn't look after the press. It loves to give press statements and not press conferences, doesn't allow questions. So I just thought he was just being a bit too expedient, and he was just wanting the limelight.
Yeah.
So I didn't think she was being a fishwife at all.
No, and it showcases priorities, doesn't it? He showed his hand, didn't he, by saying, well, suggesting perhaps that the press were more important than the issues.
Oh, and then she said, how can you come to a place like this in a situation of calamity? He said, oh, the calamity has passed, because, of course, the government
dug a deeper ditch for himself.
And that was the stupidest thing he could have said. So, I mean, basically, he didn't come out of it at all well.
Out of touch. This is people are very sensitive to this, and rightly so.
But as soon as you see politicians with their hands like this,
you
know they're on the slippery slope.
He's backing off. He's on the defensive there. And I think I saw the moment where she was triggered into tearing him off a strip publicly.
Yeah.
Because she had her back to him, I think, and he said something which she overheard, and she kind of pushed her way to the front of the.
Absolutely, she said, "Come on, this is enough."
Yes, and she decided to take the bull by the horns in that moment, and as you've put it there, further endearing herself to the Portuguese public. And we need figures like this, don't we, who appear to be champions and guardians of what's right and due to the public. I think so. More of this, more of these kinds of politicians. Perhaps great for her political future as well.
But you just don't know really, because like there was this really good mayor in Porto. What was he called? Rui something Moreira, and he was 3-term mayor, and he was great, and everybody loved him in Porto. But he decided at the end of it, well, I'm not staying in politics. I think actually he is being given some public servant job, but it's not in Parliament or anything like that. I think he's going somewhere. I read somewhere, UN or something. But yes, I must say that it sort of kind of went off my
side of my head. Well, let's move on from the agriculture minister who got torn off a strip, to use an English idiom, for what Ana Brunhosa thought were his poor manners and on his visit to Coimbra.
Lack of urbanity.
Yes, lack of urbanity. Well, I think I'm going to have to look that up as well. I'm sure you can tell me what that means. And is there something in the air about politicians from another age coming back into the frame at the moment? Coelho, I think we might talk a little bit about.
Coelho, yeah. And that's Peter Rabbit. Pedro, Peter, and Coelho Rabbit. He's Peter Rabbit. Yes. I mean, to be honest, this is a very odd story, because I'm not very, connected to the PSD as a party. But when I was talking to somebody who is, and I said, oh dear, I mean, this is really this is dividing the PSD. He said, it's already divided. So it's obviously a party already in a state of, a lot of people from the PSD went into Chega after all.
Right, okay.
So it's a party that's sort of floundering. And obviously we've got the government pretending it's the big government, but it isn't. It's a minority government. It could be puffed away in a puff of discontent. And now Passos Coelho has come weighing in, and he worries me a bit since he's lost all his hair, because he's got a very odd-shaped head. And he has. Head shape is so important, Carl. So
tell me more. Then why is that? You can tell a lot about a man by his head shape.
I don't know if you can tell a lot, but there's a head shape that makes you feel comfortable.
Okay.
Which is usually a nice round head shape. And then there's a head shape that gives you a little bit of a worry, which is this pointed back head shape with like he's kind of a mixture between a boxer now and a gorilla. It's just something not very attractive.
And we have
he used to have beautiful hair.
Oh, okay. We are human beings after all. And these things on a if not on a conscious level are important, aren't they? And I think in politics especially so.
Well, I remember when I had my last baby, and I was going to the dentist because Poppy was needing braces at that point. And I remember the dentist looking at him and saying, that's a good one, got a good head. And, I always thought about that afterwards. It looked at heads, and yes. But anyway, so Passos Coelho, with his funny head, has come back. He's always saying, people are always asking for his opinions and revering anything he has said, but he has always said up till now that he's not interested in coming back to politics. But now he's saying some very contentious things. He's being critical about the decision to employ to put the former the national director of the PJ Police into the role of Minister of Interior Administration, which he is saying is a very dangerous precedent. When, to be honest, this is the sort of thing that happens in other countries, particularly Spain. They do these promotions across. And of course, yes, you can say, which is what lots of critics have said, but he knows all the dirt on the government and now he's in the government. Is that a way of silencing him? He says not. He says he didn't know all the dirt on the government because all his men who were doing their investigations wouldn't have shared anything that should have been confidential with him. Again, how do you believe all that? Because police are great at going out for a drink at the end of the day, and they all spill all the beans. You say your father was a policeman.
He was, and you must have learned that at journalism school.
And I learned that because I was doing crime reporting in Wimbledon, and on a Friday night, you went to the pub with the police, and you heard everything. It was just that you had to try and stay sober enough to remember it the next day.
Wow, those were the days, were they not? Right, and I think that's probably in the police, in politics, and in journalism. Let's stay with the government then.
Okay,
and this, I don't know, circling of sharks and the smell of blood and old politicians returning to the fray. Before we do that, we do have some comments coming in. We're live, and this will be rebroadcast or reshared later on this afternoon on the Portugal Resident YouTube channel. So please subscribe over there. Lesson in good manners. I think Duck22 here has a bit of a beef with the growing number of people who use their speakerphones in public. I think that it can be quite annoying, can't it? OECD says, Rui, but people saying he's too old or above some age limit. Is that?
OECD. That must be the guy from Porto.
Okay. All right. I hated that she was having glasses of red wine. Going back to Anna in Coimbra, the mayor there.
Yeah, that's true.
Red wine. Population was under the water, but she got her act together by the look of it.
Did.
Chastened by that criticism, perhaps. He put the Spina Viva scandal in a bin. That was a scandal of Prime Minister, and now the PM put him in as minister.
He didn't put the Spinum Viva thing in the bin, you see, because who put the Spinum Viva in the bin would have been the Attorney General. Right. It wouldn't have been the PJ. The PJ would have given the evidence, and the Attorney General would have said, "There's nothing to see here."
That's the man. Then we should look at now. We will look at the bigger picture with the government in a moment.
Whatever the backstory in his hiring is, he is streets ahead of the people they had before.
Yes, it's all relative.
He is so capable. And one good thing for the police, and I think the police are already very, positive about it, is that he does understand that they need better conditions. They need better valorization, as they call it here, but they need to be respected much more. And they need higher pay, scales. So he is now going to be in charge of helping when I say he'll be in charge of negotiations. Yes, the government may say to him, we don't have the money, but he will be pushing for the police in a way that the last two
but may have seemed antagonistic to the police.
Yeah, the last two ministers didn't seem to give the police any time at all or any consideration.
Now the job this is Louis Neves, who we're talking about here, and the role that he'll be going into will be Minister of Internal Administration. For those of us who don't know, what sort of job is that? What sort of things will he be doing as well as dealing with the police?
Yeah, it is really an important role. I mean, because if you fail as Minister of Interior Administration, it's catastrophic. Which in fact, the last minister, she was very, very poorly. She came out in a very poor light after the fires. I mean, she didn't even want to talk to the press. She said things hadn't gone well. She was never seen in the very old days, ministers would be seen out in the field, wearing their civil protection jackets and talking to firemen and but there was nothing like that this last year. So last year was disastrous. When this ministry fails, it basically makes the government look dreadful. And last year, if you remember, the government was having a party down in the south and talking about the return of Formula One while the north was burning. So it was really a terrible situation. So, he's really in charge of the police. He's in charge of civil protection. He's in charge of ensuring that, let's say, it's everything, that the country clears the forests, that everybody knows what they should be doing in the fire season. The fire season is the kind of real challenge, usually.
The big test
of internal administration. But you see, the Ministry of Internal Administration is also on the line when, let's say, something bad happens to immigrants. Like, do you remember that awful story of this poor Ukrainian who came, who arrived in Portugal? He was going to come and see if he could find a job, and he ended up being beaten up
in custody
in the airport by some airport.
Yes, I do remember
that was again on the Ministry of Internal Administration's watch. So they're basically, really, it's like Homeland Security in a way. They've got an enormous amount on their plate. And really, a guy like this who's been in charge of huge operations, and liaising with foreign counterparts like foreign police services and
Interpol. Yes,
he's got to be a good idea.
Yes,
I can't see that.
Am I right in thinking, Natasha, that the last person in the role was that terrified-looking lady who turned out?
Poor little woman who was terrified, and she apparently is a very capable woman, a lawyer and everything. But for this kind of role, and I'm not trying to sound sexist, you need somebody, if they're not like Ana Abruniosa, an absolute Joan of Arc character as a woman, you need a tough guy.
Yeah. And to a quote from your article about him here in this appointment, this is the ministry that, as one of the many leader writers discussing Neves' appointment has pointed out, is permanently exposed to crises and catastrophes. And for that reason, they have to appear at least a strong, capable figure. And it looks like it might be a good appointment, notwithstanding some of the other comments that are coming in and some of the other and his past. But nobody's going to come into this job without a past, are they?
No.
Or any political criticism, presumably.
Exactly. And I don't think just by employing him, the government is going to be able to sidestep any dirt that's coming its way, because the dirt always comes, whether you try and put a lid on it or not, it'll come if there is dirt.
Yes, and that's what the president will be stepping into as well, a difficult time for the country. And all of these people in their new roles, it will be the making of them or not.
Exactly.
we shall find out in the coming weeks.
Yeah, because do you remember that the thing called the Peter Principle, where you've got somebody who's absolutely fantastic at what they do, but then you just
breaking news.
You just employ them a little bit too high. You give them just too much responsibility, and then they collapse.
Yes, absolutely understand that, and I've worked in many places where that appeared to be the case. People are promoted to the level of their incapability. I think it's
exactly
an aspect of human nature, especially in the workplace. So more generally, then we have old politicians or seasoned vintage politicians returning to the fray, perhaps sensing an opportunity. More generally, with the situation with the government, you're writing here: government admits deficit, stressing post-storms transformation won't jeopardize public accounts. Are we sitting on a potentially very awkward situation, the government keeping quiet about the level of damage and subsequent cost here? It's going to cost this country so much, isn't it, to get back on its feet? And I don't get any sense of that, but are they just trying not to panic the public at this time?
Well, I thought it was really sad that he says this on the same day that the finance minister has and collapses and has to go to hospital, because the finance minister, of course, is going to be in charge of juggling all these expenses. So that was a little bit unfortunate. But I think the government is on very thin ice, and it tries to keep skating and pretending that the thin ice isn't there. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't see things going very well for it at the moment. It's still behaving in a very arrogant way. It's being quite arrogant about the labour reform, that it's not going to go through the way it wants. And then it's also said that the PTRR, this grand plan that it wants to
busy morning at your place.
To implement. They want to hear other people's opinions, other parties' opinions, and civil society and academia and everything. But they said that it doesn't mean that if they hear the other politicians' opinions, they'll take them on board. Well, you don't need to say that. It's a bit unnecessary. So I don't know where this government is going.
Okay, and this is a terrible timing, and we wish Joaquin Miranda Sarmiento well.
Yeah, he's come out of hospital, and apparently he'll be back at work next week. Poor man.
A mini stroke. Now, the big question overshadowing the ambitious PTRR, what is that exactly? The rebuilding.
The PTRR it's the initials, and they took it from the PRR, which is the Portugal Recovery and Resilience Plan that's funded by Brussels. And they said, we're doing a PTRR, which is a Portuguese transformation, recovery and resilience as a result of the storms and lots of other things that need to be done. And it's going to be a long-term plan that takes the country to the end of the next government, so 2034.
Okay.
The idea is that it's got three pillars. One is getting the country back from the storms. The second is preparing the country for future calamities.
Yes.
And the third is reforms in other areas that need doing. I can't remember exactly what he said, but...
Well, it's in your article here, and I'll put the link to it into the comments. But the questions that the journalists are rightly asking is, how much is it going to cost, and how's the country going to afford
and they won't say that yet.
Okay, the big and obvious questions are not being addressed, and meanwhile, the finance minister has a mini stroke. Bless them. And we hope they recover quickly from that. So a very interesting and rich picture in the country, not unlike your home at the moment and my internet problems. It's been quite the morning, Natasha.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody must have gone by with loads of dogs or something. And so my dogs give them hell.
We have what I'll do is I'll put the front page of our virtual front page to which you contribute many stories throughout the day and sometimes at night. So that will be on the screen for you now as we look at a few comments this morning. Yes, the big tourism fair, of course, in Parque dos Nações in the capital, open to the public today. Portugal Lifestyle App, thank you for being here this morning. I think Natasha addressed that. Rui says capable people leave Portugal. if he's there, well, enough said. Or they start a new political party and die trying.
Oh
Somewhat
dear.
you, Rui. I very much enjoy reading the weekly paper on my terrace every weekend, says Duck 22 of the Portugal resident. And what? Government arrogance? It's not so. Add your own cynical tone to that as you read it. I hate it when they call themselves leaders. They're representatives. They are supposed to work for the people. We tell them what to do. That's a very
exactly, but that's not the way it's working.
Yes, instead they work for their cash puppet masters.
Exactly.
All comments welcome. That's the link to that particular article that we were talking about. You can see on the front page here. Yeah, the BTL opening at the FIL, and many stories here, including Marcelo. Yeah, let's finish on this today. Marcelo is stepping away from public political commentary. Why now?
Having engineered the Luis Neves coming into this role, because he was behind that, he then just runs off. I'm not talking anymore, but bless his heart. I mean, he has been talking for 10 years, non-stop. And plus he talked before that because he was a political commentator on television and he was always a journalist. So, he's earned his time to just enjoy.
Yes. And I wonder how many of the Portuguese public have a selfie with him. It's probably quite a big statistic. Have you got one?
No, funnily enough, he did come to Al Jazeera once and he looked so tired. I could not believe it. And it was a time, I can't remember what was going on. There was a huge, I think, I'm forgetting what it was, it was the anti-oil at the time. People were very, very anti the plans of the government, which was to do oil drilling off the coast. Thank God we got, it never happened. And that does give you some feeling that people, if they just stick together and keep on saying, no, it does actually work.
What a note to end on. Keep saying no, folks. When it comes to these impositions and possibilities that politicians may have been lining up for you as we speak. Thank you, Natasha, for your 3 news picks. Join us again next Friday, and bon fin semana to you.
Good luck with your power.
Oh, I think it's fine, and I will be installing my Starlink this weekend. Yes,
fantastic.
That should never happen again.
I'm very impressed. I wouldn't know how to install Starlink. I just know that it's, the thing to do. Anyway,
between you and me, that's why it hasn't happened yet. But I'm going to bite. And when I was plunged into having no internet just then, I was thinking, I should have done it sooner. But there you go. Good show. Thank you. Ciao. Cheers, Natasha. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Take care. Bye for now. Ciao.